All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. So, the regular season for this college football campaign is in the books, but there are still plenty of questions that must and will get answered during conference championship weekend as we are gearing up for the college football playoff. Now, the first overall seed, in my opinion, is going to go to either Indiana or Ohio State. Right now, they are the two top teams in the rankings, and they are set to square off this Saturday night in Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship. And clearly, the winner of this game is going to be number one. It's going to be interesting to see how far that the loser of this contest would fall. Now, speaking to the other top conferences, let's start with the SEC. We've got Georgia set to take on Alabama in Atlanta, and Georgia currently, okay, is ranked fourth. If they win, if they beat Alabama and win the SEC, I could totally see a scenario where Georgia would then leapfrog the loser of that Big Ten championship game to go out there and be the two seed. What happens if Alabama were to win the SEC championship game? Of course, right now the Crimson Tide, they're 10th overall. They're 10-2. And if Alabama were to win, we're talking about an 11-2 Crimson Tide team that not only would have won the SEC, they would have also beaten Georgia twice, once in Athens and then on a neutral site, if you want to call it that, because you're dealing with Georgia, because it's still in Atlanta. But none. So that's another interesting scenario right there. Um, the other thing for me with Alabama is, are the Crimson Tide firmly in the college football playoff if they lose to Georgia? Well, we've heard in the past that the CFP committee, for the most part, is not going to hold the conference championship game loss against a team. But Alabama is ranked 10th, and then if they were to lose to Georgia, they would be 10-3. How far would the committee drop the Crimson Tide? That's going to be a big question right there. Looking at the Big 12, we've got BYU and Texas Tech set to square off. Both of these teams are 11-1, and they're going to meet in the Big 12 championship game this Saturday afternoon. The question is going to be, will both the Cougars and Red Raiders get into the postseason? Right now, Texas Tech is currently fifth in the rankings. BYU is 11th. I think Texas Tech is firmly in. Okay, regardless if they lose the rematch to BYU, because remember, they handed BYU their only loss of the season. And the reason why I think that the Red Raiders are firmly in is because they're fifth in the rankings. I don't see a scenario where they drop. They took care of their business Saturday against West Virginia. And even if Texas Tech were to lose that game, are you really going to drop them out of the rankings of the top 12 for the college football playoff? I doubt it. BYU, they're 11-1. Like I said, their only loss came to Texas Tech. But being that they're 11th, how much wiggle room do the Cougars have right now? Not a lot. Then you've got the ACC, where we have Virginia set to square off against Duke and Charlotte. And, you look at it, and like I talked about this earlier, I felt like it should have been Virginia and Miami. They're the two teams that are ranked highest in the current polls. We've got Miami at number 12. Okay. And then, of course, Virginia's there at number 18. And if you're the ACC, like I said before, you don't have your two of your best teams, or your two best teams, in my opinion, squaring off to get it on in to win your championship and possibly get into the college football playoff. And since there's no ACC championship for the Hurricanes, they're probably going to go out there and miss the playoff, in spite of the fact that they're 10-2, and in spite of the fact that they have the same record as a Notre Dame squad who they beat to begin the year. So there's a lot of questions that have to be answered clearly. One thing for me is, how many teams are we going to see get in from the SEC? Last year, it was three teams from the SEC getting to the college football playoff. This year, we are looking at the possibility of 5. I think all of those teams that went 11-1 in the SEC are clearly in, and I'm talking about um, Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas A&M. I think all of them are firmly in. The committee has Oklahoma at number 8. I think the Sooners are in with their record of 10-2, as is Alabama, who's right behind Oklahoma at number 10, and they also are 10-2. You look at Ole Miss for an example. Right now, in the rankings, we had Ole Miss at number 6. How is the departure of Lane Kiffin going to affect this team's rankings, or should it? I don't think it should. Okay, but it's going to be very interesting to see if the committee does do that, because Lane Kiffin's gone. Clearly, they don't have their head coach. They have the bulk of the coaching staff there, and I think for Ole Miss, I think the Rebels are going to go in there right now with an us against the world mentality, because you got a lot of people who are going to be cheering for them. You got a lot of people who want to see them fail just so they could say, hey, you know what, they couldn't do it without their head coach. The bottom line is, I think they're going to go out there like a band of brothers, coaches and players as well, and go out there and try to rally behind it, regardless of where they are seated in this postseason. But nonetheless, the Rebels took care of their business all season long. You don't go 11-1. You don't go 7-1 in the Southeastern Conference by accident. So nonetheless, wherever they're slotted, I think that Ole Miss is going to be ready. Now, you look at some of these big conferences, and you got the Big Ten, and of course, the question is going to be, how many teams will we see get into the postseason from the Big Ten? I think it's clearly 3. It's going to be Indiana, it's going to be Ohio State, and it's going to be Oregon. Oregon went 11-1. They went 8-1 in league play, and of course, their only loss this season came to Indiana at home. Like I said before, Michigan did have a chance if they had been able to upset Ohio State at home last Saturday. That would have put the Wolverines at 10-2, 8-1, and possibly in the Big Ten championship game. Clearly, that was not the case. So Michigan is done. You've got USC there at 9-3. They had their opportunities, and the men of Troy are also done as well. This Notre Dame Miami debate is not going away anytime soon. Both of these teams are 10-2. The Fighting Irish are clearly ranked ahead of Miami. They're ranked number 9, as opposed to the Canes being currently number 12, excuse me. And you figure that number 12 slot, that number 11 slot, you're always on shaky ground, because you have to factor in the group of 5 representative coming up. So there's people who are going to be frustrated about the fact that Notre Dame is ahead of Miami, and I totally get it, because it should come down to head to head, and Miami beat Notre Dame. Okay, I always think back, and I'm going old school for a minute. I always think back to 1993, where we had Florida State and Miami finish. Not Florida State, Miami, Florida State, Notre Dame, rather. Excuse me, finished with the same record that year, but Florida State rather was handed the national championship in spite of the fact that Notre Dame beat them. It's one of those where the pollsters have liked Notre Dame all season long. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Remember, Notre Dame was a top 5 team to begin this season, or top 10, excuse me, and they lost to Miami to begin their season at Miami. They came back the following week at home, and they lost by 1 point to Texas A&M. In spite of both of those losses, the Fighting Irish were still ranked in the top 25 of the AP poll, and of course, Notre Dame got on their win streak, and of course, they have not lost since their 1 point loss at Texas A&M. Of course, Notre Dame's biggest wins, they beat Boise State by 3 touchdowns at home back in October. And of course, the Broncos do have an opportunity to win the Mountain West, because they're playing for the conference championship this weekend. So Notre Dame could possibly hang their hat and say, hey, we beat a conference champion right there. Notre Dame beat a good USC team at home. USC is currently ranked. They beat them by 10 points. They beat Navy by 39 points. Navy went 7-1 in the American. They have been ranked at times during this season, and they beat Pitt on the road by 22 points. And of course, Pitt was in that mix to possibly get to the ACC championship game. They were part of that jumble at the top. On the flip side, for the Miami Hurricanes, clearly they beat Notre Dame. They beat Pitt. We just saw them destroy Pitt by 31 points this past Saturday in Pittsburgh. The things that are going to hurt Miami, of course, the loss to Louisville and the loss to SMU. And the thing is, okay, you lost to SMU, but you lost to a good SMU team, if you want to put it like that, because Southern Methodist was in the ACC championship game last year, and they were right in that mix to possibly get back there this season. But the bottom line is, I feel like the polls, as well as the committee, have liked Notre Dame all season long, and I think they have liked Notre Dame more than they have Miami, and I think it's clearly been illustrated throughout the rankings so far in the CFP. Both of these teams are 10-2. Of course, Notre Dame's an independent. Miami is not going to have the opportunity to play in a conference championship game this weekend, so they got to sit at 10-2. And when you're on that bubble, so to speak, like the Hurricanes are, you're basically at everybody's mercy. So you got the group of five representative. And I feel like it's either going to be North Texas, Tulane, or James Madison. You look at North Texas and Tulane, they're set to meet this Friday night in the American Championship game. Tulane is currently ranked in the CFP rankings at number 24. They're 10-2 overall. You've got North Texas at 11-1. You look at it, North Texas's only loss this season. They got destroyed at home by South Florida. You look at Tulane, and the Green Wave have taken care of their business all season long. And on top of that, they do have wins over a couple of Power 5 schools. They beat Northwestern by 20 points, and they also beat Duke, the same Duke team that we are about to see have an opportunity to win the ACC this Saturday night. So you have them, and you also have a James Madison team out of the Sun Belt who also has a record of 11-1. James Madison plays for the Sun Belt Championship this Friday night at home against Troy. And of course, James Madison is favored by 23.5 points in that game. So if they finish the season 12-1, as well as the American winner, I think they're clearly going to be the teams who have the best possibility to get to the postseason. But when it's all said and done, I think it's going to be either North Texas or Tulane. Just look at it like this. If North Texas goes out there and knocks off Tulane, they would have beaten a ranked team to finish 12-1. If Tulane goes out there and knocks off North Texas, they would be 11-2, and they would have just handed North Texas an 11-win team, their second loss of the season. No disrespect to Troy, but this is who James Madison is facing in their conference championship game. So I think this time around, last year was Mountain West and Boise. This time around, I think it's going to be the American Conference champion who represents the group of five in this tournament. Of course, there's also the Mountain West. You got Boise State taking on UNLV. UNLV with a record of 10-2. Boise at 8-4. But nonetheless, I think neither one of those teams is going to represent the group of five this year. So the teams who are slightly on the outside looking in of things, you've got Vanderbilt, you've got Utah, and you've got Miami. And of course, with no conference championship game, there's no opportunity for them to kind of move up this weekend. Miami's 10-2. Vanderbilt is 10-2. Utah is 10-2. And of course, if you're Utah, your only two losses on the season are against the two teams that are currently playing in the or who are going to play rather in the Big 12 championship game. And I'm talking about BYU, and I'm also talking about Texas Tech. And of course, in the case of Texas Tech, they were blown out at home, courtesy of the Red Raiders. For Vanderbilt, they went 10-2. They went 6-2 in the SEC, which is not shabby at all. A 16-point loss on the road in Tuscaloosa against Alabama, and then of course a 3-point loss on the road in Austin against the Texas Longhorns are the only reason why we're not talking about Vanderbilt being higher and possibly getting to the SEC championship game. But I think when it's all said and done, the Commodores are going to be watching the CFP at home, just like the rest of us. And then of course there's Miami. I can't say enough about this. I feel like they should be in the ACC championship game. Some people agree with me, some people don't. It's all good. I totally get it from both factors. I just feel like the ACC, what they should have done and what they definitely have to do going forward is, you know what, make this and say, hey, if we have a tie like this, of course, in these expanded leagues where everybody doesn't play everybody, it needs to be the highest ranked teams via the CFP. I think everybody involved would agree upon it. And if that were the case, be the case, hypothetically speaking, this time around, we'd be talking about Miami taking on Virginia this year in the ACC championship game. And then there's Texas. Okay, I know that Texas is going to move up in the CFP rankings after they just handed Texas A&M their first loss of the season. The Longhorns finished this year 9-3, and they're going to sit up there and boast their chest, and rightfully so, and say, "Hey, we beat Oklahoma by 17 points. Oklahoma's probably going to get into the college football playoff. We beat Vanderbilt by 3 points. Vanderbilt has a case to get to the college football playoff, and we just knocked off previously undefeated Texas A&M. Now, the Ohio State game in Columbus was tough, a very defensive struggle throughout, and of course, the Buckeyes won that game by a touchdown, 14-7, to begin the year, because of course we saw Texas come into this season ranked number one. But what is going to hurt the Longhorns case? And you could pick your poison as far as which hurts more. Them losing on the road in Gainesville back in October to a Florida team that finished this year with a losing record, or getting blown out in Athens a couple of weeks ago by Georgia 35-10. So when it's all said and done, the win over Texas A&M is nice. It's a beautiful thing. But at 9-3, the Longhorns, I don't think, have enough cachet to get to the college football playoff. So you look at it and you say, hey, what to make of the current college football playoff picture? I still think there's a lot of work. It got cleared up, and we knew it was going to happen. It got cleared up over Thanksgiving weekend, and I think now clearly the I's are going to be dotted and the T's are going to be crossed here in conference championship weekend. Some teams are going to see their chances go up in smoke. Some teams are going to move on, and some teams are going to improve their seeding and the possibilities of getting a first round bye for this tournament. You look at it, who should be on upset alert this weekend? I think the team that should clearly be on upset alert is Virginia going against Duke. Um, I feel like Duke at 7-5, they still went 6-2 in the ACC, and I think the Blue Devils under head coach Manny Diaz definitely are going to take the field like, hey, we have something to prove, because there are people who are doubting that we should be here. Secondly, they're still going to look at it and say, hey, we have an opportunity to go out there and win our league, and let's go out there and leave it all out on the field. So I think Virginia and Tony Elliott have to definitely be ready for that factor as they take the field in Charlotte this Saturday night against the Blue Devils. Of course, we got a couple of rematches in the conference championship weekend. Of course, BYU and Texas Tech, and Georgia, Alabama are two that definitely stand out. And of course, if you're Alabama, you went on the road earlier this season and knocked off Georgia. Can you do it again to Kirby Smart? And then, of course, we saw Texas Tech have their way with BYU earlier this season in Lubbock. Texas Tech basically punked BYU in that game. So I want to see how this Cougars team is going to be ready for the rematch this Saturday in Arlington, especially where the crowd is once again going to favor Texas Tech. So those are two things and two games that I really have an eye out for. Overall, this weekend, I want to see if Ohio State's dominance continues. And they have a darn good team that they're going to be facing on Saturday night in the Indiana Hoosiers. I'm really looking forward to that SEC championship game. I'm really looking forward to the Big 12 championship game. I'm looking forward to this Mountain West championship game on Friday night. And the same can be said for that American championship game between North Texas and Tulane. But when I think seeding wise, how this thing breaks down, like I said, I think whoever wins the Big Ten championship game is going to be the number one overall seed, whether that be Ohio State or Indiana. Again, they're 1-2 in the polls. And on top of that, The winner of that game is going to be the only undefeated team heading into the college football playoff, and that would be the second consecutive year where we had just one team undefeated going into the CFP. And of course, last year that one team was the Big Ten champion in Oregon, and of course, they were one and done, unfortunately for their sake, by Ohio State in the quarterfinals. But nonetheless, I think the winner of that game gets the one seed. I think if Georgia wins the SEC, they're the two seed. Now, here's the very interesting thing. Um, you could make a strong case to say, hey, the SEC champion, because I know the SEC's been lobbying for it before, as far as being on that top line for the college football playoff. If Alabama were to beat Georgia, how far up would they move? I'll tell you like this. I'm not sure if they would be the two seed, possibly, but you have to figure you're not going to have a scenario where that SEC champion doesn't have a first round bye. Okay, so I would really be interested to see how far the committee moves up the Crimson Tide if they were to knock off Georgia for the second time this year. I think that's very intriguing. For me, if Texas Tech wins the Big 12, they'd be 12-1 clearly. Are you going to put them ahead of Oregon, who's 11-1, but Oregon didn't win their conference right there? If Georgia were to lose to Alabama for the second time, how far down would the committee move them? I think if Georgia right now is number three, if the Bulldogs were to lose to the Crimson Tide for the second time this year, I definitely think dogs are going to be hosting a first round game in Athens, and I'm sure they wouldn't mind that because Kirby Smart and company just want to be in the dance and go out there and take care of their business. Again, like I said, I want to see how the committee decides to seed Ole Miss. Like I said, they should not hold it against this team because I do believe that the Rebels are going to be ready to go. A&M, their only loss of the season came at the very end of Texas. I don't think the Aggies are going to have an opportunity to get a first round bye, but I definitely think that they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And I think Kyle Field will be rocking for the first round of the CFP. Oklahoma and Brent Venables, I don't think that the Sooners really care where they're seated. I think that they are just very happy to be in the dance, and they have deserved it. They've earned it. Okay, you figure that we saw the Sooners go on the road and knock off Tennessee and Alabama in consecutive weeks. Winning on the road at night in Knoxville is not easy to do. I know Vandy just knocked off Tennessee there. Okay, but then turning back around and knocking off Alabama in Tuscaloosa without arguably your best defensive player and R. Mason Thomas. Brent Venables had this team ready to play this year. Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman, a lot of people are talking about how the Fighting Irish have played down the stretch to end the season after dropping their first two. Marcus Freeman, make no mistake about it, if Notre Dame gets into the playoff, he's going to have this team ready. The way that Notre Dame plays D and the way that they run the football, I guarantee you the Fighting Irish are once again going to be a tough out. Then again, would the committee hold it against Alabama if they were to lose to Georgia to finish the season 10-3? I doubt it, but we still got to wait and see. And then, of course, those teams that are hanging right there, like I said, the fact that they don't have a conference championship to play in this weekend, the Utahs, the Vanderbilts, the Miamis of the world, I think that's going to put them on the outside looking in. And of course, they're going to get bumped off because of the group of five representative. And I know some people are going to have, said that, they don't want to see the group of five there. It's been agreed upon. The group of five, in my opinion, does deserve to be there. It's one of those, some people try to downplay the group of five. I get it. But you know what? When the power conferences need coaches and when they need players from the transfer portal, they have no problem whatsoever going to the group of five. Just look at the American Conference this year alone. North Texas, okay, Memphis, South Florida, and Tulane are all losing their head coaches to power jobs. And the same could be said about James Madison as they're about to lose their head coach to UCLA. But nonetheless, I don't want to see, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, I do not want to see the college football playoff expanded. I think 12 teams is fair enough. I think it still puts a huge emphasis on taking care of your business during the regular season. I still think it puts a huge emphasis on rivalry weekend, excuse me, as well as a conference championship weekend. These games are all important, okay, especially from the power leagues for various situations. You look, like I said, about the Big Ten championship game. That's the number one overall seed right there, okay, in this thing. You look at the SEC, you always get, for the most part, a top 10 matchup in the SEC championship game. And we're about to get another one this Saturday in the ATL. Chanman for Rings, what's going on? Happy Monday evening to you. You are saying 12 teams is fine. Ultimately, just want to see teams given a chance. I could not agree more. You're also saying MCU better than saying you play for the much better than saying you play for the title. Absolutely. Handle your business on the gridiron. I think back to last year when Alabama was beefing about not getting in. Hey, you lost 3 games and you got blown out at the end by a bad Oklahoma team on the road. You got to take care of your business. And I think, it still comes down to it right now. Now, going forward, there's going to be some people who want to see the CFP expanded because they're going to use this season for an example, and they're going to say, "Hey, we got some 7-2 teams within Big Ten play that didn't get in." You look at the SEC; they're going to say, "Hey, we got some 6-2 teams in our league that didn't get in." But I'm like this: still go out there. You got to take care of your business. It's a war of attrition all season long. It's survival of the fittest, any way that you want to slice it. So I think again, expanding this postseason diminishes and waters it down and takes away from the importance of the regular season because you have to win. You should not get rewarded for who you play. You should get rewarded for who you beat. It's not a participation trophy thing. That's my biggest thing. So, like I said, a lot of importance is still on these games this weekend and the conference championship weekend, and of course the lead up to the CFP. But the bottom line is, you take care of your business, and if you take care of your business, you ain't got to worry about nothing. That's all it comes down to. But nonetheless, I think we are in store for some good action this weekend. Part of me can't wait till the college football playoff gets here, but nonetheless, we still got to get through conference championship weekend because I'm really looking forward to this weekend, and I'm looking forward to the seeding and the matchups for this thing. It's one of my favorite times of the year. Okay, and I'm not going to sit up there and lie about it. I'm a big college football fan. I love the sport. I love the atmosphere. I love the competitiveness, everything about it. So I don't know about y'all, but I'm ready to see these guys get it on this weekend. And of course, some of these teams are definitely going to be going to the CFP and take care of the business there. But folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw, please feel free to hit that like button. And if you haven't already, definitely subscribe to the channel. And if you are subscribed, please go out there and tell a friend or friends, to definitely check it out. Keep on checking out this channel this week because I've still got a lot to talk about heading up to conference championship weekend, as well as the CFP rankings and the upcoming college football playoff, the final reveal for the polls. So definitely continue to check out this channel. Also, if you are on the X, formerly known as Twitter, definitely check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports. And if you give me that follow, I'll do the same in return. And that also goes for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. And also, if you're on Facebook, definitely check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sporting groups going on social media. Chanman, as always, definitely appreciate your commentary. Definitely appreciate the love and the support. And like I said, folks, it's time to get it on. It's conference championship weekend. I think we are in store for some great battles. You could take your pick as far as which game you want to see more, or which conference championship game you're more excited to see. I'm really looking forward to that Big Ten matchup. I'm looking forward to that SEC matchup. Also, I'm looking forward to the Mountain West championship game, even though that is not going to have any, bearing on the college football playoff. And then I'm really looking forward to that American championship game Friday night with North Texas and Tulane. And then, of course, the way we get it started Saturday afternoon with BYU and Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game. I think that one is going to be a dandy. But nonetheless, fine folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off and I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.